go. We are okay. One of the goals of 33rd District PTA is to increase our avenues of communication with our members. We have a variety of social media accounts, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And with no further ado, I'm going to start the workshop. A little bit about myself. I am Lisa Snowis. I've been at 33rd District. I've come back to my home district to chair reflections. For the last few years, I've been up at California State chairing reflections at the state level. I'm still on the state committee. So anything that it does, look at that. It does transcribe it. I love that. Whoever asked me to transcribe, I love this, all new technology. And so I was at state. Prior to that, I was at 33rd District. So I'm really happy to be home. Let's see, I am going to share my screen. And this is always difficult for me. I am challenged. Hold on, I need to close a couple of windows here so I can see the window I really want. Nope, not that one. Share. This should be easier, but it's not. And then I think I have to do this, that. Stop share, share again. Let's try that. So we work as a group. If there is something that you cannot see, I'm going to be switching slides. If you're stuck on one slide, it's not you, it's me. So please unmute yourself and say, hey, Lisa, we're not seeing what you're seeing, or, help me out. And if you have questions, you can raise your hand or you can put it in the chat and I will address those as I see them happening. So here we go. Okay, how to run a successful reflections program. First off, thank you so much, everybody, for spending time to learn about the reflections program. It is one of the, to me, the best programs for the students and your school and your PTA. First things first, who are you going to contact? Oh, wait, not first things, next thing. Hold on, I need to, in order for me, you know a little bit about me, I'd like to know a little bit about who's in the room. I'm launching a quick poll, 3 simple questions. And if you wouldn't mind helping me by letting me know who you are. Are you a council reflections chairman? Are you unit, volunteer, parent? I mean, we're all volunteers, we're all parents, but if, any of the above aren't you, go ahead and select that. How much experience do you have in reflections? I've been doing this for over 20 years, scary. Started when my oldest son was in 1st grade. He came home with an extra credit project from his 1st grade teacher saying that, he needed to do a reflections project. I saw how it built his self-esteem because he's brand new to the school and he's a really quiet, reserved kid. It kind of opened him up to expressing himself. And so that's why I've embraced the program, loved it, and have continued to be its banner waver. Let's see. So let's see who we've got. Oh, we've got everybody answered. Yay. So we've got council presidents, we've got unit chairs, or council chairs, unit chairs, volunteers, parents. We've got experience from all over. Oh, actually, I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the poll so you can see what I'm looking at. And we've got lots of experience in the room. And how we're going to do it, we're not really sure this year, but physically, virtually, we're going to get it done because we know that helps the students. All right. So now who are you going to call? If you are a unit chairman and you have questions, sometimes your PTA president has the answers because they are going to the council meetings. So if you're not sure of when you need to advance your entries, your school PTA president might know the answer. But if they don't, Then what you can do is go up to your council president or your council reflections chairman or your council president for your to answers to your question. And when all else fails, Claudia, you're going to be really happy. We're going to talk about that in just a minute, special ed program. When all else fails, please, doesn't matter, day, night, email me, reflections@33rdpta.org. I will answer you as quickly as I can. And, don't be surprised, 2 o'clock in the morning, you can't sleep. You have this burning reflections question and you pop it in your email and you get an answer back. Because I think that getting these answers out to you quickly is so important because you've got to move your program and you've got to get the answers to your student. So let's see. Let's move on. Next slide. Okay, so the most frequently asked questions that you get are, why is reflections important? We're going to talk about that. What is the due date? We're going to give you some suggested due dates, and we'll talk about that as well. How is the theme selected? We're going to talk about how your students can get involved in the future themes and how it is selected. You hear this sometimes. My students' art didn't win and it really was the best, and so why? We're going to talk about how you can provide your students with the best opportunities to have a successful reflections entry. How are we going to do reflections this year, virtual, physically, or hybrid? We're going to talk about that as well. So reflections, for those of you who are relatively new, and even for those of us who have been in the program for many years, the National PTA Reflections Program was created in 1969, over 50 years ago, and over 10 million students have participated. It's a nationally acclaimed student recognition program. Now, did you see, I didn't say it's an art contest, because a lot of times you'll say reflections and people go, no, that's an art contest. My student is an artistic. It's not an art contest. It's a program that allows students to express themselves to a theme, different theme every year, and it's for student recognition to encourage artistic creativity. So this program is for everybody. It welcomes all grades and abilities. So that's where we're going to talk about your special artists and how they can be more engaged and receive recognition and develop self-esteem, because this is a program where they can submit entries and be recognized. So it helps reflections help students explore their thoughts and feelings and ideas, develop artistic literacy, increase confidence, find a love of learning. Because it's funny how this program, if you give students positive feedback on what they have to say, it's amazing. It all of a sudden blows up in the sense that they want to feel seen, and they will share their feelings with you and share their feelings and become leaders. So the theme this year is Show Your Voice. It was submitted by a student, selected 2 years ago, and it was submitted by a student from New York. And these aren't themes that are adult driven. These are student driven themes. Every single theme since the beginning of the Reflections program has been submitted by a student. What will happen starting on September 1st and closing on November 1st on the California State PTA website, which is right there in the bottom. If you go online, you can find, or you can Google California State PTA Reflections Theme Search. It will take you to the theme search page. You can either submit themes on paper, as you can see over on this side. It's a little blurry, but there is a paper form that's available, or you can have your students, your child or students, go online and just input what they would like the theme to be. Because I always ask students, what does, tell me what Show Your Voice means. And some of them will go, I don't really, the theme doesn't resonate with me. And then you can say to them, what if you don't, what would you want to write to? What would you want to create to? Allow them to develop some ideas and submit them for theme search ideas. What they do is that all the themes go to the state of California. The California State Committee selects the 5 top themes that are submitted and advances those to national. And at national, they receive themes from students all across the country, and then they select the theme that will be used for the reflections theme search. So I encourage you to go online and have your students, or provide this to your students, because even if you have students who may not have time or the interest to actually submit a full reflections entry, then they could easily submit a theme selection, because all it is they put in their name, their address, their parents' name, contact information, and they put in a theme. Then they can go back. Say they have 5 themes that they want to submit. They can just go back and keep inputting themes. Very simple. Let's see. So reflections, it's 6 categories that you can offer at your schools. Dance choreography, film production, literature, music, composition, photography, and visual arts. So dance, it doesn't have to be formal dance. It doesn't have to be ballroom dancing or tap dancing or ballet. Dance is the physical expression of how your body relates to music, or if a student chooses to, they don't have to dance to music. They can create a choreography without music. And it doesn't have to be anything formal. It can be one student has to create the choreography, but they could have their friends join them. So one person always has to be the creator of the reflections entry, but they can have friends join them. So they could have 5 of their best friends. They choreograph it, and they say, okay, you do a pirouette over here, you do a roll there, you do, a plie over here, and then we're all going to do this routine. And they teach the routine. Everybody can dance to it. But one person has to have created it. Film production, it can be a live action film. It could be stop animation. It could be an animated feature. It can be anything that has, that is videoed. So film can be any of those. Literature needs to be written 8.5 by 11, single space, front side only. So that you need to make sure that a lot of times students, because we have a lot of picture books and graphic novels. A graphic novel in literature is only reviewed based on the words on the page. So if there's amazing graphics on it, but only a couple of words on the page, that's all that the reviewer can look at. So make sure at the unit level, this is really key, because once it leaves the unit level, the category cannot be changed. So if you are at a unit level and you submit a literature graphic novel in literature and it moves up to the next level, it has to stay literature. And at the next level, the only words that are being reviewed are maybe what's in those word bubbles, which may not tell the story. The story may be in the graphics. Consider contacting that student and saying, this is an amazing graphic novel, and I can understand how you could, submit it as literature, but the words will be reviewed. So what if you made it a visual arts piece? It's a 3-dimensional visual arts entry. And by changing it, it allows it to advance. Okay, music composition. It can be anything from a scored symphony down to an acapella solo voice.
Lisa, we have a question in the chat, and it's, so how else can we submit a graphic novel?
That is really the only way. A graphic novel, you can still submit it in literature, but just the student has to understand that it's only going to be reviewed for the words on the page, not visual. So if you submit it as a 3-dimensional visual arts piece, then the words and the graphics can be reviewed. Hope that helps. Keep in mind that the Reflections program has been around for 50 years. It is ever evolving. All of these, there used to be graphic novels, comic books, but in the past, 50 years ago, literature really meant writing an essay. The film and dance categories didn't even exist back then. Categories have been added. In each category, things have expanded. So up until a few years ago, visual arts was only two-dimensional visual pieces. Now they've added 3 dimensions. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. Thanks so much, Erin. If you see a question in there, please, I try to pop it, but I'm kind of single. Yeah, I multitask as best as I can, everybody. So music composition. It can be, so if a student wants to write a symphonic piece that includes a full-scale orchestra, they can write all the parts. It needs to be written by a single student, but they can, of course, have their school band play it. Everybody can help them play it, but they have to be the ones who wrote it. For the acapella pieces, a lot of times in music composition, you at the unit level may find a piece that is a karaoke of a popular song. So the music to Bruno Mars, whatever, is playing in the background, and the student has rewritten lyrics to sing to that song. In music composition, the student has to compose the music as well as, if there are lyrics, write the lyrics. So keep that in mind. But this, again, at the unit level, at your school level, if you have a student who has done that, the way that you can make this entry that might would be disqualified because the student didn't write that background music, qualify, is what are lyrics? Lyrics are just a poem. So you can contact that student going, unless you want to write some music to go with your lyrics, maybe you separate those lyrics and submit those as a literature piece because the lyrics are telling the story. Photography needs to be a single print, 8 by 10, single print. It can have matting that it makes it a little bit bigger. I forget the dimensions. It's all in the guidelines. But if you have a student that submits a photo collage where they've taken a bunch of photos and made it a collage and submitted as photography because it was all photos, you need to, again, go to the student, ask them, based on the photography guidelines, this will not qualify as a photography entry. Of course, and then, but if you change it to a visual arts entry, you can allow that entry to proceed. If the student says, no, it's a photography entry, I want it to stay there, that student gets a participation certificate. That student took the time to submit an entry. Everybody gets a participation certificate, even if, it's a karaoke and the student says, no, I really don't want to write music and I don't want it to be a poem. So in the literature, I want it to be music composition. You can say, great, here's a participation certificate. So glad you were able to express yourself to the theme this year. But again, for you as a unit chairman, that's not going to advance because of that. And visual arts is kind of the catch-all. Visual arts has expanded. It used to be 2D only. Now, 2D, it could only be like 1/8 of an inch tall. So you had those students that stuck macaroni on their artwork. Those in the past would not qualify. Now they're considered 3-dimensional art. This could be a piece of jewelry that a student designs, could be a garment that a student designs, could be a ceramic sculpture that a student designs. All of these now qualify under visual arts. The way those advance is that the student takes 3 photographs from different angles. Oh, it can be a diorama. and the student can take pictures, 3 pictures, and submit the 3 photos as their visual arts. Okay, let's see, next. So divisions, this is a little more cut and dried based on the student's grade. Pre-K or TK to 2, 3 to 5 is your intermediate, 6 to 8 is middle school, high school 9 to 12. And then we've got special artists. I forget who asked the question of how do we involve our special artists. This is it. At your school, I encourage you to contact your special needs, your special day program teachers, those teachers, instructors, and explain the program to them. Explain how this program is designed so their students can be recognized, because in most cases those students aren't recognized on the regular platforms, but here they are. It can be anybody who has a disability or needs extra assistance, and they can either participate at their grade level, their age grade level, or in special artists. So maybe you have a high school student and they are really performing at a 2nd grade level. They can submit an entry at the high school level, their actual grade level. They may need extra assistance, so they could be in the special artist level, or if they feel that they most align academically with a 2nd grade level, they can enter at that level as well. So they can pick, because some special artists choose not to be designated as special artists. It's, so they choose to participate at their grade level or the grade level that most reflects their academic ability. Hard way or easy way? How many people like to do things the hard way? Not me. Easy way. Reflections makes it so easy. They have a student entry packet that's already created for you. They have a category guidelines already there for you. They have promotional graphics already there for you. And they have a local leaders guide, which steps you through step by step what you need to do in order to run a successful reflections program at your school. All of this is available at the California State PTA website, capta.org/reflections, all of these materials. And if there's something that isn't working, if there's a link or something's broken, what was my email address again? reflections@33rdpta.org. You just pop me an email, because again, I'm still working with the state committee, and I will get that fixed for you, or I will get you the forms you need, because someone said that there was the Spanish entry packet with the PDF wasn't fillable. I have a copy. I can get that to you if that's what you need. So ignite your program. 5 simple steps. First step is getting started. You are here. That's the start. You have the interest. Thank you so much. Next is promoting reflections. We're going to talk about how you can promote reflections very simply at your school and get it going. Reviewing submissions. That's after all the submissions are collected. Reviewing submissions, getting your reviewers to look at them and score them and advance your top entries, and then award and recognize all of your students. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I'm going to have a second workshop in about a month. Right now, I want you to focus on getting the program out to your students and allowing them to create and express themselves to the theme, show your voice, and get you their entries. Then after you start collecting them, I'll have the other workshop that tells you, because you're going to go, now what do I do with them, Lisa? And I'm going to say, let me show you, but not today, because that'll blow all our minds. Next is we'll talk about, celebrate and recognize participants. We'll talk more about that briefly in this workshop, but mostly in the next workshop I provide. And wrap up and evaluate. So how to propose the program at your school. If you are, Yes.
Sorry, we had someone ask if we could email the package out in Spanish. That would be great. I know in several different councils, they have a lot of Spanish speakers. So if we could just get those sent out with along with the English links.
Yes, there is in the link that I provided the council chairs to send to the share with their unit chairs. There is a folder that has all the Spanish documents in it. So you should be able to get everything that's in Spanish. But what I can do is after this workshop, I can create and, insert and append into one packet so that it will just say Spanish submission, and it'll have all the guidelines and rules in it. Would that be helpful to everybody? Yeah, I will do that.
I think so. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you, Julie. Okay, so if you're here, your PTA has to have already embraced the Reflections program, made it part of their budget. But if you are a parent or a volunteer and you're here to understand more about what this Reflections program is, again, it's recognition for students that may not receive recognition. Because I don't know about you or it might be you, it might have been your child, that, we all know those students who are top excellers at your school. But not everybody is that. But here you've got a venue for someone who has a creative streak to them. Let them be recognized. This is the program. So you get approval by your PTA board to have the Reflections program. They need to give you a little budget. And this program is really as simple as being that it's recognition. If you give the students a certificate, that's a print on paper. A certificate. That means a lot to students who's never been recognized for anything. And so it can be as simple as a ream of paper or even heavy paper if you wanted to, or you can, purchase medallions, trophies, ribbons. There's, sky's the limit. The other thing that you can do is, a certificate and a popsicle party, or a certificate and a lunch with the principal. So this is what I've seen, is that you can set up an area in the cafeteria, you cordon it off, you put streamers and balloons or decorate it a little bit, and all the students who participate in the Reflections get to go into this special area and eat lunch, and the principal comes in and congratulates them all. That means a lot to, your elementary students, maybe not so much for your middle school and high school, but you know your audience. Think of what would make them feel most, give them most pride. Get your teachers involved. The Reflections program works with your teachers in the sense that if you can ask to speak for like 3 minutes during a staff meeting at the beginning, of school, explain to your educators what the Reflections program is. Ask them if they wouldn't mind assigning it as an extra credit project. It can't be graded, but it can, but it can be an extra credit project. And that, show your voice falls into so many areas in your social studies discussion. All right. Due dates. All right. For units, your suggested due date is October 15th. Council due dates are suggested is November 1st. So unit chairman, get with your council chairperson and find out what date they will be collecting your advancing entries. Your advancing entries are the first place, your award of excellence, your first place winners in the divisions and categories at your unit. My district due date for my council chairman out there is going to be December 1st. And people say, why does it have to happen now? School's starting, so much is going on. Our dates are dictated by when National wants theirs. National's due date for advancing entries is March 1st. So therefore, the state of California's due date is the middle of January. That's why my due date at the district level has to be December 1st, and then council, and then your due date. So I know it's like, shoot me, I'm only the messenger. And you'll need a couple of weeks, before you have to advance your entries to get them reviewed. We're going to talk a little bit about reviewing in a bit. All right. So again, easy. This is a checklist that is provided in that local leaders guide. And this, you can, check off things. If you like to, mark things off, this is a great checklist. You can customize it. Recruit a committee. Find people who, friends recruit friends. You got to have one or two of them out there that don't run away from you when you come near them, because they know you're going to ask them to help you with something for PTA, but those are the people we love, and those are the people who support us. Recruit your community arts professionals, your local, for your reviewers. Look to your, maybe a local photography studio. They could review your photography entries. Librarians are great for literature review. An art studio in your area, a dance studio. Friends, you may know somebody who's in the film industry. The other place to go is, if you're in the elementary school or middle school, go to your high schools. Ask your high school, there's high school English teachers, high school, music teachers. Have them look at those categories. And if not your high school, go to a local community college. There's always students looking for, that volunteer project. Engage them. At your community college, maybe you've got an alumni from your school. Wouldn't they like to come back and help their school out? So those are things that you can do, and make sure to look at that leaders guideline. The first thing that's on this checklist is registration with PTA.org. It's optional, but encouraged. You can go to PTA.org, fill out the reflection survey. They don't send you any email that says they get it. And a lot of people think, if I don't register, then my school can't participate. Not true. Everybody can participate as long as you're at a PTA school. So that is just for data collection. National would like to know how many schools are participating nationwide. That's how they get their numbers, to be able to tell people 10 million students have participated. We have this many schools from this many states who have participated. So if in February you get something in the email saying you didn't register, doesn't matter. Your students and your school still get to participate in the Reflections program. How to promote it. So maybe,
Lisa had another question. Claudia asked, what about board members? So I don't know if she's asking about PTA board members or school board members or city board members.
School board members, city officials. It's a way to engage them. Bring them into your school community. Absolutely. You can ask them. What are the other questions? There's 6 people in the chat, 6 board members, school board. Yeah, you can have your school board members review your entries. Let's see. Okay.
I had a question about templates for the awards, but that should have been that. I think those are on CAPTA.
That is all on CAPTA. Again, you can create your own if you'd like, but the PTA program has developed all these resources, so it's really simple for everybody.
And then we had a question about having the submitting entries, and I just said that was going to come up a little bit later in this.
Yes, absolutely. And again, if during this workshop there's a question that doesn't get answered, or I didn't answer it thoroughly, or I confused you more than I answered it, that can happen. Please remember, reflections@33rdpta.org. Just email me. I'm always willing to help anybody with any questions. So how to promote this? Maybe at an assembly, you can, at one of your morning assemblies, you can mention it to the students. You could set up a table at drop off or pick up, and you can explain it to the students and parents. Most PTAs are having their first association meeting soon. If it's an evening event, people, it works hand in hand with PTA, because your association needs a certain number of people to show up to get a quorum. This is a way to bring people in. Have an art night and tie it into one of the early association meetings. You can set up, have a photographer come in and explain how to take a good photograph. You can have an artist come in and teach how to draw perspective. You can have a drum circle come in and, teach students how to do rhythms. You can have a filmmaker come in, show them how to do stop animation. You can have all these little, pods set up and do the association meeting, then let people out into this amazing art night. So that's another way of bringing people. It works hand in hand. The other thing that I like to do is, or I've done at elementary schools, is set up a table during lunch. Of course, with, faculty, administration permission. I don't know if we're allowed to be on campus right now. It's kind of probably half and half. But if you're allowed to be on campus, set up a table and have art materials, have pencils, paper, colored paper, crayons, markers, have that lined paper on the table. And at the beginning of lunch, you announce, hey, students, if anybody'd like to do an art project after you finish your lunch, then come over to my table. So the students finish their lunch, they come over to your table and you ask them, what does show your voice mean to you? Why don't you draw me something or write something? And then the students go off and they write or draw something. And then before lunch is over, you bring them back and you say, okay, show me what you did. And what would you title that? And you have your paper submission forms right there. And you write that down in the title. And then you say, tell me about your artwork. And the student tells you. You say, take this submission form along with your entry, take it home, either write down what you just told me about your art entry and have, fill out the top part, which is your name, your address, parents' contact information, and a couple of signatures, and bring your entry back and put it in the box in the office. Right then and there, you've got reflections entries, as simple as that. All right, let's see. So we're going to do a quick quiz. So if everybody wants to get off mute, you may. Take a deep breath. Okay. It's so hard being in our boxes. All right, so photography. Which one can be submitted? A mom's hand taking the photography entry, the photograph, or a student taking the photograph? Which one can be submitted? Any thoughts?
B.
I see B coming up. That is absolutely correct. In the photography category, the student has to be the person who took the picture. Now, say, for example, you've got a student at your school and you know who the student is, and you get the photograph and you look at the photograph and you go, that's the student jumping up in the air in the photograph. So you think to yourself, did someone else take it or did the student take it? You get the student and you go, tell me, how did you take this photograph? And the student will tell you, I set up the camera, I put the timer on, I ran in front of the camera, I had to jump to get, and it took me 50 times to do this over and over and over again till I got the photo that I wanted. Then you know how the student did it. The student took the picture themselves. But if, of course, the student says, yeah, I jumped and my mom took the picture and that's the one I submitted, then you go, that is, okay. You say, that is an incredible entry. Thank you so much for submitting it. And then make note that that will be a participation certificate. Everybody who takes the time to submit something gets a participation certificate. But you know that photo isn't going to advance, because if the student told you someone other than themselves took it, that that's one of the guidelines, is a student has to take the photo.
You have 2 questions here about special artist photo
Yes.
entries. Can they be facilitated by someone else? And what about our special students who need assistance?
Yes, absolutely. If you have, if the student has dexterity issues or they're not able to take the photo, as long as the parent or whoever's taking the photo has been told by the student how to take the photo in the best way that they are able to express that, then that student can have assistance. Same thing with if the student has a difficulty in writing or drawing or whatever it may be, the students in the special artist category may have assistance. Absolutely. Good question. All right. Next slide. Okay, photography or any category. A, this photo won first place at the county fair and is being submitted to Reflections, or this photo that has not received any awards elsewhere. Which one may be submitted?
We have some B's in the chat.
We have some B's in the chat. Thank you very much, Erin. That helps me. I'm looking quickly. So you're absolutely correct. Reflections entries need to be created specifically for the theme of the year of Show Your Voice. This one happened to be hands, but you know, whatever the Show Your Voice is. If it was judged or corrected or graded, so if it was an essay that the student wrote last year that really was on point with Show Your Voice, and the student, and it was graded in class, and then the student, that cannot be submitted this year. The student needs to create something new for Show Your Voice. So it can work backwards. It can be that if it's a Reflections entry, next year they could submit it at the county fair during the summer, but it can't be submitted in the county fair and then brought back into Reflections. And that's for any category. We've seen these photos before, haven't we? Film production. We've got mom's hand filming. Let's pretend we're filming, not taking a picture, filming. Or we have the student filming. Which one works for the film category?
Roshni says B.
Okay. And I will have to say that this is a trick question.
Can I say something before
Yes,
you answer that? I think it should be both A and B, because if student is participating in the video and the mom is helping to take a video, maybe that could also count
You are
for the production.
You are absolutely right. That is right on point. Now, this is a rule change. About 5 years ago, it said that the student had to be the camera person. That was changed. And I was a big part of that, because whenever there's a student in a film, doesn't your student want to be the star in their film? Who doesn't want to be the hero or heroine in their film, or the bad guy, whatever it may be? But so it used to be that the student had to be the cameraman. That rule changed. And now the student has to be the cinematographer, which is the director of the filming. So for example, if the student blocks out their scene and they are the hero and they're running away from the villain and they're going to run onto stage, you know, into the room from the left side, they're going to do a roll, they're going to stand up and run off to the right. They are, of course, in the scene. It would be hard to set a stationary camera to video that scene. So they can say, mom or best friend, whoever's holding the camera, this is what I want you to do. It's my film. I'm the film production person. I want you to video me entering the room, doing my roll, standing up and rolling off to the side. So I want you to pan across the room. So as long as the student directs the filming, then this would qualify as film production. Excellent answer. All right, music composition or any category. You've got students collaborating together to write a music piece, or a single student writing the piece? What do we think? I think we've got some B's in the room, and that is correct. For any category, it needs to be created. The entry needs to be created by a single student, but they, of course, can have friends say play music to it, or play musical instruments in their music composition, or dance, or be in their film. But the student needs to have, the single student who's submitting the entry needs to have been the creator of all of that. All right. This is something new that, again, I went up to National and said, it's unequitable, because 50 years ago, such as everything we do in life, everything evolves. And 50 years ago, there was music teachers in the schools. Students were learning how to read music. There were art teachers in the schools, you know, and you got art from a professional teacher. Now we know that's not the case anymore. What the music composition rules used to be is that middle school and high school division submissions had to include music notation. Well, nowadays, students may not know how to write the music. And so that was changed so that now they can either submit written music or a written reflective statement. I'm going to explain what that is, or both. It's completely up to the student. But what would happen is that in primary and intermediate, these students would be submitting music entries, and then suddenly they get to middle school and they had to submit music notation. They weren't able to submit music notation because everything they learned was by ear. And so they couldn't submit in music composition. Totally unequal playing field. So the playing field has been leveled. Now all a student has to do is write a reflective statement if they are unable to write music. I do want to say, though, for primary and intermediate and middle school and high school, if a student has written a music piece and are singing to it, that they should still submit the primary and intermediate. Highly recommended to submit the lyrics, because their expression and their statement is in their lyrics. So sometimes you just can't understand them when they're singing, but that way, if as a primary student, they provide the lyrics, then you can read along with what they're singing, even though it's not required. So with the reflective statement, they describe what music decisions might have been made, elements, equipment used, sounds or ideas that express their emotion, and musical decisions. The way I look at this is you have a music piece for Show Your Voice that starts really soft, and then it gets really loud, and then it gets normal. And the reflective statement to describe this music piece could be, I was really timid to show my voice, so that's why my music is really, really soft in the beginning. Then I thought if I screamed, everybody would listen to what I had to say, and that's why my music got loud. And then I realized that more people would listen to what I say if I spoke in a normal voice. That's why my music, you know, the melody went the way it did and just became normal. So that's one way that a student can describe how their music relates to the theme. Literature. So here a student wrote their, I don't know, journal on the wall. And here is one where you've got a student who's written their essay on a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper. Which one can be submitted in the literature category?
B can be submitted in literature. A would have to be visual art.
Excellent. Right, because if this is, you could take a photo of this and submit it either in photography or visual arts, depending on where you wanted it to go. And on B, keep in mind that only the words, only the words are going to be reviewed by the reviewer in the literature category. The house is really adorable, but it's like your graphic novel. The reviewer cannot give the visual portion any points if it's in the literature section. They can only review based on the words. Visual arts, which one may be submitted? A or B?
We have 1B, it looks like.
Yeah. Okay, I made this quiz kind of simple because it's all B. So for your visual arts, copyrighted or art that wasn't created by the student, for example, the Mona Lisa isn't copyrighted, but she certainly is a recognizable art piece that was not created by the student. Whereas this original view of, take on the Mona Lisa would be. So watch for that. And again, if you have a student that submits something that's like A, that is something that they've just, Jackson Pollocked over, that's fine. It's a great participation piece, and you award that student for taking the time to submit something to the Reflections program. Visual arts or photography. Visual arts.
Visual arts, we have.
Visual arts, and that is correct because again, this is a collage. Each one of these single photos could be submitted as a photography, but it can't be submitted as a collage. And the other thing is that this last photo over here with Family is Love, a photo cannot have anything, no graphics or anything on top of it. It can be only the photo. So Family is Love and this clip art, this would not qualify as a photography entry. So this would be visual arts, but the entire thing would be visual arts. Good. All right. And dance, choreography, and film production. National PTA accepts 3 types of files: MP4, MOV, and AVIs for dance and film. So all 3 of these. And if you get an entry that is something other than that, if the student can flip it around fast enough and get it back to you, in one of these formats, then, again, allow them to, because there's a lot of different formats out there now, but these are the ones that National will accept. So following the guidelines, as we said, a title and artist statement is key and required. And what makes a good artist statement? An artist statement ties the theme, show your voice, to the entry. So I've gotten entries over the years, and once there was an amazing watercolor piece that a student submitted, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to go all the way to National and win it all. And then I looked at the artist statement and it said something like, my mom made me submit this artwork to the Reflections program. I was like, oh, I was so sad. But, that was her statement. That statement got 0 points in that area, but it was still a marvelous piece of art. Whereas there is another entry that I got. It was by a special artist. It was a photography piece. I pulled it out of the envelope. It was, the theme that year was Let Your Imagination Fly. Pulled it out. It's a blurry photo selfie of a little boy underwater with goggles on. And I thought to myself, I have no clue how this relates to Let Your Imagination Fly. Turn it over, looked at the artist statement. And the artist statement said something to the effect of, when I'm in the water, I can let my imagination fly because I am free from my wheelchair and I can be anything I want to be. Okay, so you can see how something like that, the artist statement ties it right back to the theme. And that is going to be a more successful entry than the my mom made me do this. So that's my hint to you. When you are working with the students at your school, really make them think of how they're, they get 100 words to say how they show their voice. All right. They can submit entries in more than one category. So if you've got a student who would like to submit an entry in all 6 art categories, unless your school chooses not to offer a category, that is perfect. There's nothing in the national rules that says they can only submit 1 entry in 1 art category. And again, they can submit more than 1 entry in a single category. So they have 5 photographs, each one different. And each one has, you know, they feel they can't pick. They all mean show their voice to the student. As long as it comes in on a separate submission form, you can have them submit the photo with the title and a different artist statement, 5 separate submission forms. That's 5 different entries in a single category. The only time I had, yes, Rashmi?
Hi, so I have a question.
Yes.
So what if the students worked in a group and the group decided to submit by themselves, like one person in the group? So does that count?
Again, it's the group needs, it can't be created by a group. It has to be created by a single student.
Okay.
If, you know, and it's kind of the honor system. If one student submits that entry, even though it was created by the group, you know, you can't question the student particularly, but, you know, again, it's a single student needs to create the
Okay.
entire project.
Okay. So
Okay.
the single student can able to entry their multiple stuff and also in a multiple categories, correct?
That is correct. Yes. A
Okay.
single student can enter. Yes, exactly what you
Okay.
said. Multiple art
Okay.
categories. So if they want to dance, they feel they can show their voice in a dance, in a piece of music, in a piece of literature, photography, you know, visual arts and
Mhm.
literature, they can enter, and maybe they have 2 visual arts and they, you know, they can enter as many in any art category and in any single art category. The only time that I had a school that limited the number of entries in a single category was there was a high school that went all in and every student in the school submitted a literature entry. There were 1,500 students at the school. So that was 1,500 literature entries. That school limited the literature entries to 1 per student because it was just the reviewing process. Someone has to
Okay.
review 1,500
Yeah.
essays. That was huge. But other than that, you know, it's up to you. You can, of course, at your school, you can change, you know, adjust these, but
Okay.
there's no rule at the national level that stops
Okay.
a student from doing this. Okay.
Okay.
Must be original work created for the purpose of this program's theme. Again, you can't submit it to the county fair and then bring it back here, and it might have been created without the show your voice in the thought. Only 1 student can be recognized. Other students may appear. So you can have your school orchestra or your dance group perform your dance routine or play your music piece or be in your film, but you need to have created it. Again, guidelines, follow the guidelines, and the artist's statement is really key, as I think my example showed. So ineligibility, okay. PTAs must be in good standing. That means that your bylaws have to be up to date. Bylaws are good for 5 years. So I would guess that everybody in this room, their bylaws are up to date, but check with your president. It's on the front of the bylaws what your date is. If you've got a bylaws that's out of date, don't panic. As long as your school is working to get them up to date, I and the district and the state will accept it to advance. You know, it's one of those things that you wouldn't be here if your school was really that on the edge of falling off the edge. Contact me if you've got a good standing issue. I would never penalize a student for something an adult should have taken care of. And the student has no control over the PTA bylaws, the membership, minimum membership turn-in, or the insurance. And those are the three things that determine whether your school is in good standing or not. But any questions about that, email me. Submission prepared by more than one student, prepared by other than the student, wrong category. Again, I've given you some hints on how to, at the unit level, how you can work with your student to get the category to the right category so that that entry has the most potential to advance. Once it leaves the unit level, once it hits council and district, I may look at something, I may look at that collage of photographs and it's in the photography category. I can't change that because that's how it's advanced. And again, that student will get a great participation certificate from the district, but it can't advance any further. If a submission's in the wrong division, check that when you're looking, look at the grade, look at what they've submitted. The only time you'll see something that might look a little odd would be your special artist. You may have a special artist that's, 17 years old that's submitting in the primary, and that's because they are a special artist. So now, virtual reflections form or physical paper form or hybrid or both. I know that there were a lot of you out there. Some of you are going paper, some of you are going virtual, some of you are going hybrid, and you say, it's completely up to you how you do it at your school. At the district, and you'll have to check with your councils. If you're a unit, check with your council.
They'll scan it for you and they do what? They scan you what? The receipt, your receipt?
I think someone fell off of mute. If we can mute them, thank you. It is completely up to you. And if you do it at your council may say they only want it virtual, but if it moves, if your council is flexible, because again, we're coming off of 2.5 really crazy years where we were forced to go into virtual, and then now we're coming back and some of you are more comfortable with paper, although virtual is a blessing. It's so easy to, transmit up, but at my district level, I will take either. So this is your paper form with the paper rules. And you can do it this way, collect the artwork. Just keep in mind, if your artwork advances, have the advancing visual arts and photography, have those students hold on to their entries, because I'm not sure what we're doing at district yet, whether we're going to have an in-person celebration or whether it will be virtual, but I know that at state, the state will be having an in-person convention again this year, and they will be wanting the visual arts and photography entries that advance to be sent to state for the convention display. I had one last year where the student submitted a painting and didn't think that she wasn't crazy about it. It ended up advancing. They asked for the original painting and she said, I'm really sorry, I painted over it. So you just never know, I mean, art is subjective, and, the reviewers at the higher levels thought it was fantastic and she thought it was just okay. But a lot of the famous masters did that all the time, because canvases were expensive. So just keep in mind to have your visual arts and your photography students that are advancing hold on to their entries, keep them someplace safe. Virtual form. So here is the virtual form. And what I can do, one moment, let me pull this up and I will share the link with you in the chat. There. And we're going to talk a little bit about the virtual form. Okay, I think I have to do this again. Come on. Don't want to do that. One moment. My little sidebar isn't going down. There, moved it. There. Okay, now I'm not seeing that. This one, share. There we go. Okay. So I just put the virtual form in the chat, so you can click on that and follow along. First thing you want to do before you, after you click on the link before, is to find an account that you want to be collecting your virtual entries in. So I created a brand new spanking clean Gmail account that I can collect my entries in. Because when you create a brand new Gmail account, it gives you 15 gigs of free storage. And most schools will not go over 15 gigs unless every single student in your school does a 5-minute video. Next, you do the make a copy. Then it will ask you if you want to restore the uploaded folders, the missing folders, you'll say restore, because what those folders are going to do is when students upload their entry, it's going to sort them for you. So if you get a visual arts entry, it's going to go into the visual arts folder. If you get a literature entry, it's going to go into the literature folder instead of all into one folder, and then you have to sort them. So when you go to sort them later, they're all going to be all nice and tidy in their little folders. Next thing, it will remind you that it's low on storage, but again, you have 15 gigs. You can go ahead and continue.
We have a question from Claudia. She said, do we have it in Spanish? And then Andrea Harrington asked if anyone else was having trouble clicking on the link.
Okay. To Claudia, everything is in Spanish. So if you notice, see, it's in English and then Spanish follows it on every single screen. And I hope that works for everybody. And if you're having difficulty getting into the form, opening this form, put your email in the chat and I will follow up with you. How's that? Okay, so this is behind the curtain. When you see something that says section, this is behind the curtain. Your students will never see this. This is really, you don't even need to look at this. This is just the template for the submission form. In fact, I recommend please don't mess with it because that will adjust your output later on. So this is, whenever you see section, this is called basically don't touch it, just to have it there. You want to see what the student sees, you can click here. See this little eyeball up here? You click the eyeball and this is what your student will see. They will see this without the sections here. It'll ask for their email. They'll click next. It will then ask for their, they'll click next. Then it will ask for their first name, their last name. It will walk them through the submission form just as if it was a paper form. It will ask them what category they are going to submit in. Let's say they pick visual arts. It will open up just to this section on visual arts. If they pick literature, it's going to take them to a section that's just for uploading literature. And so they can upload the visual arts piece, add a file, upload it, and then click next. And this is key. This is what happened a couple years ago. People weren't seeing this submit button. Sometimes it rolls just off your page and you don't see it. Make sure your students understand that they need to see the submit button and they need to get an email. So what happens here is that when they click submit, they have to click the submit button and then look in their email that they provided at the very beginning of the entry submission, and they should get an email that says, here's your entry, here's what you put in your entry. So make sure that they understand that they need to do that and see that email. Otherwise, their entry is out in limbo, cyber limbo. they should, after they click submit, they will get this screen, which allows them to edit their response. So they think, oh, darn, I think I forgot to put my apartment number in my address. They can go back and edit it and check to make sure they put their apartment number, or they could submit another response. So this is the student with 5 photography entries or 1 entry in each category. You can submit another response. It goes back and it takes you through. You go through the whole process again of put your name, put your address, give us your title, give us your artist statement, and what category is it going to be in. And it takes you to that, upload your entry, and off you go. Then you're going, well, now that I've done that, how do I find out how many students have responded? Again, go back to the tab, find your behind the scenes, the one that says section that you don't need to really look at, except that you look at the section and you look up here and here's responses. There's 1 response. You click on the responses and here is your response. And it goes through and it has, you know, the student's email, the first name, the last name. It's big, one long screen that you can roll through, but you think that's going to be hard to sort through all those entries. See this little green gift box? I call it the present to you. Click on the little green gift box and it will say, would you like to create a spreadsheet? And you say, sure, let me create a spreadsheet. You select create and here it is, ta-da, all of your entries. So if I had 10 entries submitted, it tells you the timestamp. It tells you the email address, first name, last name. I was in kindergarten the day that I created this entry. I was 5 years old. My mommy is my guardian's name and cell phone, and it goes all the way across, giving you everything the student provided. So there's a column over here that has the title of the artwork, the artist statement, everything you have, and a link to the entry itself. All right, so you're thinking, okay, that's great. I've done that. How do I get this to my students? Right here, go back to the behind the screens tab, the one that has section. Up here, it says send. You select that and it gives you this box and it has the envelope. So if you want to email every single one of your students, put in 500 email addresses on this 2-line. More power to you. But we want to do things the easy way. This is great if Johnny says, I never got the, I need to submit. How do I submit it? You can just send it to Johnny or Johnny's mom. But if you want to do it the easier way, see this? This is the link. Select the link. And here is the link. It's big, it's long, it's ugly. You can copy that link and you could put that into, your e-bulletin, your emails out to the students. But an easier way is, see this shortened URL? By clicking that, you get this nice little tidy, small email address link, and you can copy that and put that into your emails. But even better yet, this pandemic has done crazy things to us, but has made us more tech savvy. You can take this and create a QR code that you can put just about anywhere. You can put it on your flyer. You can put it, post it on your Instagram. You could post it on your Facebook page. You could post it on your school e-bulletin. Just the QR code. Everybody just knows what to do with those now, because that's how we order from food now. We click the QR code to get the menu. So this has made it easy and hard. Now I'm going to go through this rather quickly. We're going to have that second workshop in another month. Reviewing rubric. Again, the interpretation of the theme. This is what the artist statement garners up to 40 points, and there's a whole rubric. Your judges, your reviewers have it very easy. It tells you specifically how many points to give based on this other rubric. Creative merit. This is how creative your students are. And mastery of the medium. This is how artistic you're. So again, this isn't an art contest. It bases more on the interpretation and the creativity. We'll talk more about that. Reviewing entries. You should be looking for your reviewers now. Again, your librarians, your high school teachers, your junior college professors, or alumni students, people outside of your school, because you don't want to ever be someone to say, or you overhear them say, well, the Reflections chairman's kids always win because they chaired the program. You can easily say these were reviewed by people who are not part of our local community. Again, school board members, government officials, go outside and get them engaged and get them to be part of your school community. These are some of the Reflections entries that have been submitted. Celebrate and recognize your participants. You can go to the PTA store and order ribbons, trophies, medallions. Support your local trophy company. Again, those local people, they're, you know, your neighbors, they're your community. You can support them as well if you choose to. But everybody gets a participation award. You'll have one award of excellence, which is your first place. That's the entry that's going to advance to the next level. You've got your award of merit, an honorable mention, and participation awards. There's no limit on the number of those that you can provide. If you want to give a couple of award of merits, go ahead. If you have several honorable mentions, go ahead. That's up to you and your PTA. But again, only one can advance to the next level. So check your paperwork. We're going to go over all of this more in depth in my next workshop. So I'm going to just click through here.
We do have a question from Karen of Long Beach Council. She says, what happens if you just get the form, but not the box asking you to restore the folders?
Get the form and not the box. You should, unless you've already set them up. Put your email and that in the chat, and I will capture the chat before we end the workshop. And we can walk through that. Okay, thank you. We'll do the wrap up and evaluate at the next workshop. Family engagement. This is students who have parents who are active volunteers tend to do better. And questions. So here we are, question time. Yes, Millie.
Hi, I have a question. So we have, and Erin, I need your help too. So we have independent study. These are students that are either at the site or at home, you know, taking their classes, but they're home schools. They have PTA. If these students want to participate in Reflections, how would that work? Would they have to go through their home school or turn it into Erin, because she's my chairperson, turn it into Erin, but the home school would be, an example, Eastwood?
Yes, Erin, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the way that that would work is that it's the home school that the student is affiliated with, is where they would submit. Did I get that right, Erin?
Yeah, and where they have their where the PTA that serves them does. So like Millie, your kids are through D.D. Johnston, they would turn it in through D.D. Johnston PTA, or you know, like my kids, if Jeremiah, if my son was a independent study, he would turn it into Benton, because that's the school that he's affiliated with. Because our independent study program doesn't have, it's not its own separate school. So they are all coming from their own home schools.
Homeschool.
Okay, how about if they are not, how do I put this? Because you know that we're having difficulties at homeschool in our home independent study in our home schools. Sometimes they don't have that close relationship, some schools. So I got asked that question, you know, how about if their PTA is not fully supporting Reflections, how can their kid participate? How would that go about if they could turn it in to Erin directly, but representing that homeschool. I mean,
So like
Okay.
if your homeschool was not doing reflections, how could your
Correct.
kids still participate in it?
yes.
Okay. I don't know, Lisa, do you have an answer?
That
for
would be, okay, so if, in order for a student to participate in reflections, the school they attend must be a PTA school. Okay, so because reflections is a PTA program. So,
Correct.
you know, I've had where a student has moved to a middle school without a PTA and they want to submit, they say, can I buy a membership at a school that has a PTA and submit through that? That is not allowed, the school that they
Okay.
attend. But in this situation, you've got a school that has a PTA that has chosen not to have the reflections program.
Correct.
Is there a way for you to create the reflections program to allow your students plus other students, you know, that's what you would look for, is you'd have
Okay.
to contact their PTA, say, hey, listen, I think it's a great program for reflections, and you PTA at the school, you may be overwhelmed by a lot of things, but if you don't mind, I can share it, and then you propose it and allow it to run at that school, collect entries from other students, and then the other students and the parents at that school might go, this is a great program. They can embrace it, and next year they could have it.
Okay.
So entries would have to come from the school.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. Other questions?
I don't have a question real quick, Lisa, but I gotta run to go get my kids. So Melanie, I just told Melanie, and so she knows, but I gotta run to go get my kid from Scout. So bye. It was so nice to see you all. Bye.
Thank you. Yes, Andrea, we will provide the slide deck to you. We have recordings of all of these that we will be sending out. I will get with you, Karen, on the form to see what happened there. Same thing, Andrea, everybody seems, so I'll get things out in Spanish to everybody. Other questions? Oh, let's do Claudia. Claudia?
Yes, hi. So I am trying to go fully digital. I'm a teacher
Okay.
and I'm doing a Google Classroom.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to do a submission for each one of the categories. But I was just thinking, I really, 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 really want to celebrate our special ed community this year because they're never seen. And I want there to be a big, thing in the yearbook and in the newspaper about it to make them feel seen. So do they get like a special category, or do they also submit under photography, visual arts, dance, etc.?
They would submit in the special artist division.
Okay.
Photography, special artists, visual arts, special artists, literature. They get their own category.
Okay.
The special artist has their own category for each division. Their division is a category.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. This is amazing. This is my first time, so I hope I don't make you guys look bad, but I'm going to do my best.
If you need any support, thank you very much for
Oh, Claudia, it's
participating.
me doing first time too. So I'm like trying to take all the notes. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God.
You know something? It's when you break it all down, the real purpose is to allow students to express themselves. If you just tell them, show your voice, what does it mean to you? You know, like I said, I've done this at lunchtime, and students just can't wait to do something creative because it's a way that they can express themselves and be recognized. You'll run into these situations as well. I had a student who participated and he won an award, and I took the awards list to the secretary at the school, and she looked down the list and she goes, his name's on the list? And I said, yes. And she says, he is always in the office for doing naughty things. And this is, and so I said, please let him and his parents know. He brought an entourage to the celebration because it's the first time he had been recognized for doing something positive. And so,
That's what I want. So
Yeah,
I
and-
would love for you to share with me anything that you give besides a certificate. Like, even if it's a little, what would you
Yeah.
give besides a
You know,
certificate?
again, you can do a little popsicle party, or you can have them go to a special lunch area and have special recognition for them where everybody else is seeing it and they're going, why are these students having special treatment?
That's smart.
You
I
know,
like it.
and then you have them just bring their own lunch. You don't even have to pay for their lunch. You can, or maybe you pay for their cupcake or cookie at the end, or popsicle, you know, but then have the principal come and congratulate all these students. I'm so proud of you. That means the world to kids.
And then once they go to, like, let's say they advance to California, what happens then?
They are recognized at California with, you know, a certificate. If they are one of the top awardees, they get on-stage recognition at the convention.
Oh my God, that's so great. I'm just hoping that some of my special ed kids do this, because we have to do this for them.
You have to. This
We
is
have
where
to.
they get recognized. So Claudia, make sure to put your email address in the chat, and
Yes.
we will be in contact. We'll talk. Karen.
I was just going to tell Claudia at Long Beach, when we have special artists, that we had one that advanced last year. So we asked his mother what he would like as a prize, because he's nonverbal, and she said he loves stuffed animals. So along with his certificate and his little medal that we gave him, we went out and bought him a little Beanie Baby thing. So, and that was the best thing that he had out of everything.
See?
Yeah,
This
I
is-
think it's just a recognition that makes them feel good. And I think that's what I'm headed towards this year.
Yep. And that's what this program does. And what I love about the Reflections program is the community. So here, Karen from Long Beach is helping Claudia. So whenever you are working on anything, if you're stumped and you don't have a reviewer for your film, we're not islands. Go out to the next school over and look up on their website and see if they have a reflections chairman. And if they do, contact them going, hey, who are you using for film? Give me some hints. You know, I mean, we can share it. We don't have to keep it all to ourselves. And I'm more than willing to share everything that, all the resources I have with you, and everything I've learned over the 20 plus years that I've done this, because this program is that important. Other questions out there? I think we're coming to the end of our workshop. Really, thank you so much for attending, sharing your evening with us. Thank you, Melanie. Want to thank Aaron for supporting this workshop. Julie, our esteemed district president, is also on the line here. Thank you so much. And look forward to seeing you at the next workshop. I will be sending an email out. It should be in about a month. And it will tell you, now that you have all these entries, what do you do with them? I'll walk you through it. All right. Take care. Have a nice evening.
Thank
night.
you. Bye.
Thank you,
Good
Lisa.
night.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks again.
Laura, your screen cracks me up. Okay, so she might be gone. Laura, I'm gonna sign you out. Oh, let's, did we not record